So if you followed along, we are a year 2. This is our year 2 flower farm, and we use this hoop house. Actually, what we're going to do this year is use this hoop house to hopefully get a head start on some Mother's Day bouquets by starting some sunflowers, which this is my trial patch right here. But it's kind of not really the best trial because it had no plastic on it. In this video, we're going to show you putting up the for real UV greenhouse plastic on the hoop house. We've only had crossways plastic on it, and so hopefully we won't have to keep doing this every season. This will last us for 4 years. So, and hopefully come Mother's Day, when I actually plant out some sunflowers and we'll have sunflowers for Mother's Day. We'll see.
So while typically this would probably be considered a downtime for flower farming and gardening, I don't think there really is a downtime. We are between seasons, between the warm and cool flower season flowers. And so we're still gonna have flowers, especially sunflowers and stuff, but it definitely is a slower time. And then obviously we're gonna get into the winter. But I don't think there's a downtime, because this is where we're gonna do all the stuff we need to do to be ready for next spring. One of those things is putting new plastic on the hoop house. I have bought the actual greenhouse plastic, which is supposed to last supposedly around 4 years and be UV resistant and all that. Plus it's a lot thicker. So I got all this old plastic off and I'm getting ready to put the new on. But that leads to other things that need to be done. So the main thing is, when I built this, I was lazy and I didn't put concrete in my middle posts. So if you can see, it's really bowed out there. Now I've fixed this one, or I'm fixing this one. So that one I've straightened out, but both of those were really bowed out. I was smart enough to do the corner ones in concrete, but not real smart. It would have been a lot easier to do it right from the beginning, and I know that, but having to correct it now. So what I'm doing, I jacked it over off the house. It's kind of convenient. Dug out the post, and now we've put concrete in it. And once that dries, tomorrow I'll do this one same way. And then I've got to deal with these over here, the same issue, especially that one far one you can see. So again, live and learn. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do this side. First of all, I've got to get rid of some plants that somebody planted way too close to the hoop house, because we really need access around this whole thing for rolling up plastic and having the screening and all that. But anyway, my thought is, if I get this side concreted and stable, then I can probably take a strap, a ratchet strap between this post and that post, and hopefully pull this one in this way, because I really don't have anything to jack up against. So I think that will work as long as I get this side good and sturdy. So it's mainly this post, first one right here, that is the worst, but I'm sure that other one needs to be straightened a little bit as well. I'm continuing to work on repairing and upgrading the hoop house here. I've got this side really straight. Redid both these posts. This is the last one I did. Did that yesterday, put the concrete in. So those should be pretty sturdy. Now I've got to do this side, which will be a little more difficult, but you can see the difference. That should be like right here, especially this first post. So I took the screen off. What I'm going to try to do is get a strap around the base of that post and run it over to the top of this, where I took the screen off here, and ratchet it, pull it that way. I'm going to go ahead and dig out around it, make it a little bit easier, hopefully. And then later I'll do that one, which isn't quite as bad right there. So that way everything should be a lot more stable. I guess there's a lot more pressure from these hog panels than I realized. So, and again, it's another proof that you should do things right from the beginning. It's a lot easier than trying to fix it at the end. But anyway, oh, and I've got Terry the tree frog here observing and managing the project. All right, that worked out pretty well. Got my strap around the base of that, up to the top of that. Pulled it tight, got that straight, got it dug out. And since I have another strap and I have this one already secure, I can do two at a time now. So I got this one dug out and straightened. So now it's time for concrete. I'm sitting here behind the house at the hoop house, getting ready to install some wiggle wire track I've never used before, but I think it will make it a lot easier to put the plastic on the greenhouse or the hoop house and keep it on the hoop house, and add shade cloth and stuff very easily without affecting the plastic. Like I said, I've never used it before. It should make things easier, but at the same time, it kind of presents its own problems or issues that I got to figure out. But really what I'm going to do right now, I've got 2 days before we have our first freeze. It's Sunday afternoon and Tuesday night, Wednesday morning should be supposedly our first freeze. So I've got to get this on by really tomorrow. So I'm going to do the track first, get all my track around the perimeter. Kind of figure out what I'm going to do around doorways and window in the back. And then obviously I got to do the plastic, which I got an 8mm plastic, which is really heavy. So we'll see. It might be too thick, but it is greenhouse plastic, which I have not used before as well. So kind of a bunch of firsts here that should all be upgrades, but we'll see if it makes things better or easier. And I do have my flower dog here, Ozzy, to supervise and make sure I'm doing things correctly. So real briefly, wiggle wire is a track like this. It's kind of a U-shaped track that you obviously put on the side of the greenhouse like you see there. I keep calling it a greenhouse, but hoop house, greenhouse, same thing. And then this is the actual wire that you wiggle in this track, and that kind of snaps in place, and that holds the plastic inside this track. So you lay the plastic over this, and then you snap this wiggle wire. That's why they call it wiggle wire, because you got to wiggle it back and forth to get it inside that track. Doesn't look like it would go in there, but it does. So I'll try to show that later, but like I said, I'm right now trying to get my track installed. I'm going to do it right along the top of this bottom perimeter board, all the way around the whole hoop house, front and back and sides. And then I'll figure out the ends from there, but it just screws on with these self-drilling screws, so they'll drill right through the metal and into the wood. all the track down around the perimeter. Only one injury, which is pretty good for me. Drill slipped off the screw and gouged my thumb, which is why we always have Band-Aids available. But I got about halfway through around that back side when I realized that these screws, while they are great, obviously drilling through the metal because they're self-drilling screws, they don't hold in the wood real well. They're really not long enough. So I started using these other screws, which worked really well. So that whole back side, I use those screws. I'm going to go back and replace all the other screws with these because these hold really well. But besides that, I got the perimeter done. I got to figure out what I'm going to do around my door because it's not really level there. I've got to somehow level that out so I can do track around the door. Window shouldn't be that big a deal. I've got all my wiggle wire track up like I showed before around the perimeter. I now have it around the doorway, have it around the window in the back. So I think I've got everything ready. So now it's time to get the plastic out of this box and unroll it somehow where we can, I guess the easiest thing's gonna be to get along the length here and then pull it over. But it's just me and Shauna doing it. Shauna's a little vertically challenged, but I think we can do it. It's a little bit of a breeze today. I know it's supposed to get windier, so that's why I wanted to get it done now. And it's gonna be hard to believe we're gonna have possibly a record high of 83, 84 today. Tomorrow, it's gonna drop 30 degrees. So getting ready for the cold to come. But we will see how this goes. Installing the wiggle wire is actually pretty easy. Here you can see I've overlapped the plastic over the track, and then I'm just pushing the wiggle wire into the track at the very beginning there, and then just alternating back and forth or wiggling back and forth the wire to get it in the track over the plastic. And as you can see, it holds the plastic right in place. And if I make a mistake or want to redo it, I can just pull that wiggle wire back out and redo it as needed. So it's pretty simple to use. If you've ever installed screen on a door, it's very similar to installing screen with a spline, where you just lay the screen over the grooves and you push the spline in, and then it kind of just tightens up the screen once you do all four sides. So here, when I'm on the other side, putting this wiggle wire in, it's just almost automatically tightening up the plastic from one side to the other. And you actually have to be a little bit careful that it's not too tight, and you don't want to tear it or anything like that. Okay, big job done. We do have greenhouse plastic on the hoop house. It was hard to do, but I mean, definitely a two-person job. Luckily, Shauna was here to help. And as you'll see, it was very difficult to get on there as far as over it. But once we got it over, the wiggle wire, I love it. It is very simple, as you'll see, just to wiggle it in there in the tracks. I mean, this is good and tight. And actually we got, an 80 plus degree day. When it cools off, I'm sure it will loosen a little bit, but turned out really well. I'm glad we got the 8mm plastic. I thought that might be too heavy, but it actually is good. And I think will last longer. It's supposed to last 4 years. I highly doubt that, but that's what they say. So I mean, unless a tree limb or something hits it or something like that, hopefully we won't have to mess with it for 4 years. But the good thing about this, we can pop the wiggle wire right out, roll these up. I'll probably put more track along this so we can somehow hold it up in the summer so we have all that ventilation. Because even right now it's probably 100 plus degrees in there. And as you can see, potato plant. Sunflowers look okay. Potato plant's a little wilty. And I only killed one sunflower, which it may, hey, that still may be okay. I did step on that trying to get the plastic in here, but then that was the only casualty. So it's good and warm. I got to get plastic on the window before tomorrow. And obviously I got to do the door and get plastic on the door. But that plastic I'll probably just staple on. Because obviously we can open the door, leave it open, the window we can fold out, leave that open. At least now for the winter. So good job done. For both the door and the window, I really didn't see a reason to use wiggle wire. Even though there's screen on the door and screen on the window, and technically you could remove the plastic just to vent through that screen, but the door you can open obviously and vent that way. The window folds down, so that doesn't really need to be vented that any other way. So what I did, I just stapled the plastic on both the door frame and then the window frame, and then just used a utility knife just to trim around it to fit to size. And that was just a lot easier than having to do wiggle wire on those two things.